She was 3 steps from the door when the alarm went off. Maya froze. Her heart pounded so loud she thought everyone in the 7-Eleven could hear it. The basket in her hands held baby formula, 2 cans of soup, and a pack of diapers. $23 worth of groceries she couldn't afford. Her 5-year-old daughter hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. "Hey, lady, stop right there." The store clerk, a middle-aged man with a mustache, came around the counter fast. Maya's legs felt like cement. She should run. She should say something. But shame locked her in place. I was going to pay," she whispered, knowing how pathetic it sounds. Maya's stomach dropped. If the police came, if they arrested her, who would take care of Zoe? Her little girl was home alone, sleeping on their couch, because Maya couldn't afford a babysitter. Child services would take her. Maya would lose everything. "Please," she begged, her voice cracking. "Please, I'm sorry. I'll put it back. I'll leave. Just don't call them." The clerk wasn't listening. He was already dialing. That's when a voice cut through the tension. Deep, calm, authoritative. "Wait!" A man in a black suit stepped between them. Tall, blonde hair, blue eyes that looked tired but kind. The kind of suit that probably cost more than Maya's rent. He pulled out his wallet without even looking at her. "How much does she owe?" The clerk hesitated, looking between them. $23.50. The stranger handed him 2 20s. "Keep the change, and delete that call." The clerk pocketed the money but looked annoyed. "Sir, we have policies about shoplifters. She's not a shoplifter. She's a customer who forgot her wallet. Isn't that right?" The clerk grumbled something under his breath but hung up the phone. Maya stood there trembling, clutching the basket like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Thank you," she whispered to the stranger, still not looking at him. "I'll pay you back. I promise. Don't worry about it." His voice was soft now, almost gentle. "Are you okay?" She nodded quickly. Too quickly. "I'm fine. Thank you again. I have to go." She tried to move past him toward the door, but he shifted slightly, not blocking her but making her pause. "Maya?" The sound of her name from his lips made her entire body go rigid. No, this couldn't be happening. Not now. Not like this. She slowly, painfully raised her eyes to his face. Mark Reed stood there, staring at her like he'd seen a ghost. His sandy blonde hair was shorter than she remembered, with hints of grey at the temples that made him look distinguished. Those blue eyes that used to light up every time he saw her were now filled with shock and confusion. The same strong jaw. The same slight scar above his left eyebrow from a skiing accident in college. The same man she'd loved with everything she had. The same man she'd destroyed when she walked away 6 years ago without a single explanation. "Marcus," she breathed. For a moment, neither of them moved. The clerk had gone back behind the counter, muttering about wasted time. A customer by the soda machine pretended not to stare. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows. Marcus's expression shifted from shock to something deeper, pain, anger, confusion, all of it mixed together. 6 years. His voice was barely above a whisper. 6 years, Maya. I looked everywhere for you. I hired private investigators. I called your friends, your old jobs. You just vanished. She clutched the basket tighter, the plastic handles digging into her palms. I'm sorry. You're sorry? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I thought you were dead. I thought something terrible happened to you. And you're sorry. I can't do this right now. She moved toward the door again. No. This time he did block her path. Not aggressively, but firmly. You don't get to disappear again. Not this time. You owe me at least an explanation." Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes. She thought about Zoe asleep on their couch in their apartment in Rainier Valley, 15 blocks away. She thought about the eviction notice taped to their door, giving her 72 hours to pay 3 months of back rent or be thrown out. She thought about the empty cabinets and the disconnection warning from the electric company. She thought about the secret she'd been carrying for 6 years, the one standing between them right now like a bomb waiting to explode. "Please, Marcus, just let me go." "Why?" His voice cracked. "Why did you leave? What did I do?" "You didn't do anything wrong." The tears were falling now, hot and shameful. "You were perfect. You've always been perfect." "Then why?" She couldn't answer. How could she tell him the truth? That his mother had cornered her in a parking garage 6 years ago with an envelope full of cash and threats that would ruin his career. That she'd been 3 months pregnant with his child and terrified. That she'd taken the money because her own mother was dying and medical bills were drowning her. That every day since had been torture, knowing she'd destroyed the only good thing in her life. "I had my reasons," she finally said. Mark stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked down at the basket in her hands. Baby formula. Diapers. His jaw tightened. Are you in trouble? Do you need help?" "I'm fine. You were just caught stealing groceries, Maya. You're clearly not fine." She flinched. The shame of it all was suffocating. Here she was, face to face with the man who once wanted to marry her, the man who'd taken her to 5-star restaurants and weekend getaways, and she couldn't even afford baby food. "It's none of your business anymore," she said quietly. "Like hell it's not." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered from every time he was stressed or overwhelmed. "Where are you living? Do you have a job? Are you safe?" "Marcus, stop." "No. I've spent 6 years wondering what happened to you. 6 years blaming myself. 6 years thinking maybe I pushed too hard, or said something wrong, or... You didn't." She practically shouted it, and the clerk looked up from his phone. She lowered her voice. "You didn't do anything wrong. This was all me. I made my choice, and I have to live with it." "What choice? What are you talking about?" She shook her head. "I can't do this. Not here. Not now." Mark reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Then, "Meet me tomorrow. Please, just give me 1 hour to understand what happened." Maya stared at the card. Reed Technologies. CEO Mark Reed. Of course he was still running the company. Of course he'd achieved everything he'd worked for. While she'd been struggling to keep a roof over her head, he'd been building an empire. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I just can't, okay? Is it because you're married? Is that why you left?" "What? No, I'm not married." "Then what is it?" His frustration was boiling over now. "Just tell me the truth, Maya. You owe me that much." She looked up at him, this man she'd never stopped loving, this man whose life she'd walked away from to protect him, and the words almost came out. Almost. But then she thought about his mother, about the threats, about how his whole world could come crashing down if the truth came out at the wrong time. "I have to go," she whispered. "My daughter is home alone." The word hit him like a physical blow. "Daughter?" Maya realized her mistake immediately. Her eyes went wide, and she took a step back. "You have a daughter." His voice was quiet now, dangerously quiet. "How old?" "That's none of your business. How old, Maya?" She pressed her lips together, refusing to answer. Mark was already doing the math. She could see it in his eyes. 6 years since she left. Baby formula and diapers in her basket, the way she'd looked at him just now like she was terrified of what he'd discover. Is she mine? The question hung in the air between them like a guillotine. Maya's silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. She could lie. She could tell him no and walk away and disappear again. But she was so tired. Tired of running. Tired of lying. Tired of carrying this weight alone. Her name is Zoe, she finally said, her voice barely audible. She's 5 years old. And yes, Marcus, she's yours. If you're still watching this, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story is about to get crazy. And I promise you, you don't want to miss what happens next. Also, drop a comment and tell me, do you think Maya was right to keep his daughter a secret? I'm genuinely curious what you think. Mark stood there frozen, his face cycling through emotions faster than Maya could track. Shock, disbelief, anger, hurt, and something else. Something that looked like hope. I have a daughter. He said it like he was testing the words, seeing if they felt real. I have a 5-year-old daughter and you never told me. I couldn't or wouldn't. Both. She hugged the basket to her chest like a shield. It's complicated. I had a right to know. I have a child, and you kept her from me for 5 years? Lower your voice, she hissed, glancing at the clerk, who was definitely listening now. Mark took a deep breath, visibly trying to control himself. When he spoke again, his voice was strained but quieter. Where is she? Where's my daughter? At home. Asleep. Alone. The judgment in his voice stung. I didn't have a choice. I don't have money for a babysitter, Marcus. I don't have money for anything. That's why I was... She gestured helplessly at the basket. He stared at her for a long moment, and she saw something shift in his expression. The anger was still there, but it was mixed with something softer. Concern. Maybe even guilt. Take me to her. What? No. Maya, I just found out I have a daughter. You think I'm going to walk away right now? You can't just show up at our apartment in the middle of the night. Why not? She's my child too. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know anything about you. And whose fault is that? The words landed like a slap. Maya flinched, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. He was right. This was all her fault, every bit of it. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Marcus. But you have to understand, I had reasons. Good reasons. Then tell me, I can't. Why not? Because it'll ruin everything. What does that mean? He grabbed her shoulders gently, forcing her to look at him. Maya, what are you afraid of? She was afraid of his mother finding out and following through on her threats. She was afraid of him hating her when he learned the truth. She was afraid of losing Zoe if his family decided to take her away. She was afraid of so many things she couldn't even name them all. Everything, she admitted. I'm afraid of everything. Marcus's expression softened. His hands were still on her shoulders, warm and solid and familiar. I'm not going to hurt you, and I'm not going to let anyone hurt you or our daughter. But you have to talk to me. Please. Our daughter. The words made her heart ache. She'd never heard anyone say that before. It had always been just her and Zoe against the world. Not here, she finally said, and not tonight. Zoe's asleep, and I don't want to wake her. She's been through enough. Tomorrow, then. Marcus. Tomorrow, Maya. I'm not asking. His voice was firm, but not cruel. I'll pick you up. We'll talk. And I want to meet my daughter. She wanted to argue. But what was the point? He knew now. The secret was out. There was no going back. Fine. Tomorrow. but just to talk. That's all back. Fine. Tomorrow. But just to talk. That's all. Where do you live? She hesitated, embarrassed. Their apartment was in one of the poorest neighborhoods in Seattle, a fourth-floor walk-up with peeling paint and broken locks. She didn't want him to see how far she'd fallen. "I'll meet you somewhere," she said. "Maya, the Starbucks on Jackson Street. 10 a.m. He looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded. "Okay, 10 a.m. Don't disappear on me again." "I won't." He finally released her shoulders and stepped back. She clutched the basket and moved toward the door, desperate to escape before she completely fell apart. "Maya?" She turned back. "Does she look like me?" The question was so vulnerable, so hopeful it broke something inside her. She thought about Zoe's blonde hair that curled at the ends just like his, her bright blue eyes that sparkled when she laughed, the way she scrunched up her nose when she was concentrating, exactly the way Marcus do. "Yeah," Maya said softly. "She looks just like you." She saw the emotion flash across his face before she turned and walked out into the cold Seattle night. Her hands were still shaking as she hurried down the dark street toward home, toward the daughter who looked like her father, toward the life she'd built in hiding, toward a future that had just become terrifyingly uncertain. Behind her, Mark Reed stood in the fluorescent glow of the convenience store, staring at the business card he'd tried to give her that now sat forgotten on the counter. He had a daughter, a little girl who looked like him, a child he'd never met, never held, never known existed, and the woman he'd never stopped loving had kept her from him. Tomorrow, he was going to get answers. Tomorrow, everything was going to change. But tonight, Maya walked home alone through empty streets, carrying $23 worth of groceries and a secret that was finally, terrifyingly, out in the open. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of the couch watching Zoe breathe, her small chest rising and falling under a thin blanket. The little girl's blonde curls spread across the pillow, her face peaceful in sleep. She had no idea that everything was about to change. Maya's phone sat on the coffee table, dark and silent. No calls, no texts. For a moment she'd wondered if maybe Mark would change his mind. Maybe he'd wake up and decide he didn't want the complication of a secret daughter. Maybe he'd just disappear the way she had 6 years ago. But she knew better. Mark Reed wasn't that kind of man. He never had been. When the first light of dawn crept through the apartment's single window, Zoe stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, those bright blue eyes that were a mirror image of her father's. "Mommy? Hey, baby. Good morning." Zoe sat up, rubbing her eyes. "I'm hungry." Maya's heart clenched. "I know, sweetheart. I got us some food last night. How about some cereal?" Zoe's face lit up. Really? Really? They didn't have much, but Maya poured the last of the milk over a small bowl of cereal and watched her daughter eat like it was the best meal she'd ever had. Every bite was a reminder of how close they'd come to having nothing. How close they still were. "Mummy, why are you sad?" Maya forced a smile. "I'm not sad, baby. Just tired." "You're always tired." The truth in those words hurt more than anything. Maya reached over and tucked a curl behind Zoe's ear. "I know, but things are going to get better. I promise." She just hoped it was a promise she could keep. By 9:30, Maya had dressed Zoe in her best outfit, which wasn't saying much. A pink shirt with a small stain on the collar that wouldn't come out, and jeans that were getting too short. Maya wore the only clean clothes she had left, a black sweater and jeans that hung looser than they used to. She'd lost weight over the past few months. Stress and skipped meals had a way of doing that. "Where are we going?" Zoe asked as Maya brushed her hair. "To meet someone." "Who?" Maya's hands paused. She'd rehearsed this conversation in her head 100 times over the years, but she'd never found the right words. How do you tell a 5-year-old that the father she's never known suddenly wants to be part of her life? "A friend of Mommy's. Someone I used to know a long time ago. Is he nice?" "Yeah, baby, he's very nice." They took the bus to Jackson Street. Maya couldn't afford a cab, and she definitely wasn't going to let Mark see where they really lived. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The bus was crowded with morning commuters. People in business suits heading to offices in downtown Seattle. People with normal lives and normal problems. Maya held Zoe close and tried not to think about how out of place they looked. The Starbucks was busy when they arrived at 9:55. Maya found a table in the corner and sat down with Zoe, who immediately started coloring on a napkin with a broken crayon Maya had found in her purse. At exactly 10 a.m., the door opened and Mark walked in. He looked different in the daylight. Still handsome, still commanding, but there was something vulnerable in the way he scanned the coffee shop until his eyes landed on her. And then on Zoe. "Before I continue, I need you to do something for me real quick. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button right now. It seriously helps this video reach more people. And drop a comment telling me what you think Mark is feeling right now seeing his daughter for the first time. I read every single comment, and I love hearing from you. Now let's see what happens when Mark finally meets Zoe." Mark walked toward their table slowly, like he was afraid any sudden movement might make them disappear. His eyes never left Zoe, taking in every detail. The blonde curls, the blue eyes, the way she kicked her feet under the table while she colored. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. This was it, the moment she'd been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. "Hi," Mark said softly when he reached them. Zoe looked up, her crayon pausing mid-stroke. She studied him with the kind of innocent curiosity only a child could have. "Hi, are you my mommy's friend?" "I am." Marcus's voice was gentle, careful. "My name is Marcus. What's yours?" "Zoe Marie Thompson." She said it proudly, the way Maya had taught her. "Always say your full name to grown-ups." "That's a beautiful name." Mark glanced at Maya, and she saw the question in his eyes. Thompson. She'd kept her own last name, not given Zoe his. "Thank you. I'm 5. 5 is a great age." "How old are you?" "Zoe, that's not polite," Maya said quickly. But Mark smiled. "It's okay. I'm 32. "That's old. Can you sit with us?" "If that's okay with your mom." Zoe turned to Maya with pleading eyes. "Can he, Mommy? Please." What was Maya supposed to say? "No, honey. He can't sit with us because he's your father, and I've been lying to both of you for 5 years. She nodded weakly, and Mark pulled out a chair. "Have you had breakfast?" he asked Zoe. "I had cereal." "That's good. Are you still hungry? Can I get you something?" Zoe looked at Maya for permission. Maya knew she should say no, that they were fine, but the truth was, Zoe was probably still hungry. That single bowl of cereal wasn't enough for a growing kid. "A muffin would be nice," Maya said quietly. "If you don't mind." "Of course not." Mark stood. "What kind do you like, Zoe? Blueberry." "Blueberry it is." "Maya, coffee?" "I'm fine. You look like you could use some caffeine." She wanted to argue, but she was exhausted. Okay, black coffee. Thank you. He walked to the counter, and Maya watched him order. Even in jeans and a simple sweater, he had that presence that made people notice him. The barista smiled at him a little too warmly, and Maya felt a pang of something she had no right to feel. Jealousy. "Mommy, I like him," Zoe whispered. "That's good, baby. Is he your boyfriend?" "No, sweetie, he's just an old friend. But you look sad when you look at him." Kids saw too much. Maya forced another smile. "I'm not sad." "I promise." Mark returned with a tray carrying 2 coffees, a hot chocolate for Zoe, and a blueberry muffin the size of Zoe's head. Her eyes went wide. "That's so big." "You think you can finish it?" "I can try." Mark set everything down and sat back in his chair. For a moment, he just watched Zoe tear into the muffin with the kind of enthusiasm only a hungry child could muster. Maya saw the emotion playing across his face. Wonder, sadness, love. He was already falling for her, and he'd only known her for 5 minutes. "Thank you," Maya said quietly. "Don't mention it." They sat in uncomfortable silence while Zoe ate, humming to herself between bites. Finally, Mark spoke again, his voice low enough that only Maya could hear. "We need to talk." "I know. But not here, not in front of her." Maya nodded. "Zoe, baby, can you go look at the books over there for a few minutes? The ones by the window?" Zoe looked up, her face covered in muffin crumbs. "Okay." She hopped off her chair and skipped toward the small bookshelf in the corner. As soon as she was out of earshot, Mark leaned forward. "I didn't sleep last night. Neither did I. I kept thinking about what you said, that you had reasons for leaving, for keeping her from me." He paused, his jaw tight. "What reasons, Maya? What could possibly justify this?" She'd known this conversation was coming, but that didn't make it any easier. It's not that simple. Then make it simple. Use small words if you have to, but make me understand why I just met my daughter for the first time at 5 years old. His pain was palpable, and Maya felt the weight of her choices crushing down on her. "Your mother came to see me." Mark blinked. "What?" "6 years ago. Right after I found out I was pregnant. She found out somehow, I don't know how, and she came to see me." "What are you talking about?" Maya took a shaky breath. "She offered me money to leave you. A lot of money. Enough to pay for my mom's medical bills, and have some left over." Marcus's face went pale. "You're lying." "I wish I was. My mother would never—" "She did, Marcus. She said you were about to take over as CEO, that you had a bright future ahead of you and I would ruin it. She said if I really loved you, I'd let you go." "And you believed her?" "It wasn't just that." Maya's voice cracked. "She threatened you. She said if I told you about the baby, she'd make sure you never got the CEO position. That she'd destroy your career before it even started." Mark sat back, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. "So you took the money and ran. My mother was dying, Marcus. I didn't have insurance. The medical bills were drowning me. I couldn't afford rent and food and keep her alive. Tears were streaming down her face now. I didn't want to take it. I hated myself for taking it, but I didn't have a choice. You had a choice. You could have told me. And let your mother ruin you? Everything you'd worked for? That wasn't your decision to make." His voice had risen, and a few customers glanced over. Maya looked toward Zoe, but she was still engrossed in a picture book, oblivious to the storm brewing at their table. "Protecting me? You took my child from me. You let me spend 6 years thinking you just didn't love me anymore. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" "She did. She could see it written all over his face. The pain, the betrayal, the years of questions that had gone unanswered. "I know I can't fix what I did," she said. "I know sorry isn't enough, but I need you to understand that I didn't do it to hurt you. I did it because I loved you. That's not love, Maya. Love is trust. Love is communication. Love is not taking money from my mother and disappearing with my child." He was right. She knew he was right. But that didn't change the past. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice hollow. Mark looked over at Zoe, who was now tracing her finger over the pictures in the book, mouthing words she was just learning to read. His expression softened. "I want to know my daughter. I want to be part of her life." "Okay. And I want to help you. Both of you. You're struggling, Maya. I can see it. You can barely afford to feed her." The shame burned hot in her chest. "I'm doing my best." "I know you are, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. She's my daughter. Let me take care of her. Let me take care of both of you." Maya shook her head. "It's not that simple. Your mother? I don't care about my mother. I'll deal with her. You don't understand. She'll come after us. She'll try to take Zoe away from me. Over my dead body." The fury in his voice was protective, fierce. "No one is taking my daughter from either of us. I promise you that." Maya wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly, but she'd seen what his mother was capable of. The woman had money, power, connections. What did Maya have? Nothing. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted. "You don't have a choice. I'm not walking away from my daughter. Whether you like it or not, I'm in this now." Before Maya could respond, Zoe came bounding back over, clutching the book. "Mummy, can we get this book? It has a princess." Maya's heart sank. "Baby, we can't afford." "I'll get it for you," Mark said immediately. "No, Marcus. You don't have to. I want to." He looked at Zoe. "Go pick out any book you want, okay? And you can get a toy too if you see one you like." Zoe's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really?" "Really. Thank you." She threw her arms around his neck in an impulsive hug that made him freeze. For a second he didn't move. Then slowly, carefully, he wrapped his arms around her tiny body and held on like she might disappear. When Zoe ran off again, Maya saw tears in his eyes. "She's perfect," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yeah, she is. I've missed so much. I know." He wiped his eyes and looked at her. "This isn't over, Maya. We have a lot to figure out. But right now, I just want to spend time with her. Can we do that? Can we just have one normal day before everything gets complicated?" Maya nodded, exhausted and overwhelmed and terrified, but also, for the first time in 6 years, not entirely alone. "Yeah," she said, "we can do that." And so they did. They spent the rest of the morning in that Starbucks, Mark asking Zoe questions about her favorite colors and her favorite animals and what she wanted to be when she grew up. Zoe answered every question with the kind of unfiltered honesty only kids possess, and Mark soaked up every word like a man dying of thirst. Maya watched them together and saw the resemblance so clearly it hurt. The same smile, the same laugh, the same way they both tilted their heads when they were thinking. This was what she'd stolen from both of them. This connection, this love, this family. And now, somehow, she had to figure out how to make it right. Mark insisted on driving them home. Maya resisted at first, making excuses about having errands to run. But Zoe was already tugging on Marcus's hand, chattering about a cartoon she watched, and Maya didn't have the heart to separate them. Not when her daughter looked happier than she'd been in months. We can take the bus. Maya tried one more time. Mark looked at her like she'd grown a second head. Maya, I'm not letting you and my daughter take the bus when I have a car right here. Your car probably costs more than everything I own. So? She didn't have an answer for that. She was too tired to argue anymore. So she gave him the address, hating every second of it, and climbed into the passenger seat of his Mercedes while Zoe bounced excitedly in the back. The drive from downtown to Rainier Valley took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of Zoe asking Mark 1,000 questions about his car, his job, his favorite foods. 20 minutes of Maya watching the neighborhoods change from clean and prosperous to run down and forgotten. 20 minutes of dreading the moment Mark would see exactly how far she'd fallen. When he pulled up outside her building, she saw his expression change. The 4-story walk up with its cracked concrete steps and graffiti-tagged walls. The broken security door that anyone could push open. The overflowing dumpster in the alley. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. This is us, Maya said quietly, already reaching for the door handle. Maya, you can't be serious. It's what I can afford. It's not safe. It's fine. We're fine. But even as she said it, a man stumbled out of the building, clearly drunk or high, shouting at someone who wasn't there. Zoe pressed closer to Maya instinctively. Marcus's jaw was tight. What floor are you on? 4th. Is there an elevator? It's been broken for 6 months. He looked like he wanted to say something, probably a dozen somethings, but he swallowed it all down. Let me walk you up. You don't need to... Maya, I'm walking you up. She knew that tone. There was no point arguing. So she led the way through the broken security door, past the mailboxes with half the numbers missing, up the narrow staircase that smelled like cigarettes, and something worse. Zoe held both their hands, skipping between them, oblivious to the tension. By the time they reached the 4th floor, Mark was silent. Maya unlocked 3 different locks on her apartment door, another humiliation, and pushed it open. The apartment was exactly what it looked like from the outside. Small, worn, barely furnished. The couch that doubled as Zoe's bed. The tiny kitchen with its ancient appliances. The single bedroom that Maya and Zoe shared because she couldn't afford a 2-bedroom. Home sweet home, she said, trying to sound cheerful for Zoe's sake. Zoe ran to the couch and grabbed her stuffed rabbit, the one toy she had left that wasn't falling apart. This is Mr. Hoppy. He's my best friend. Mark crouched down to her level. It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Hoppy. Zoe giggled, and the sound of it made the shabby apartment feel a little less depressing. Maya watched them together, this man in his expensive clothes kneeling on her threadbare carpet, talking to her daughter about a stuffed rabbit like it was the most important conversation in the world. Her heart ached with everything she'd lost and everything she'd stolen from both of them. Zoe, sweetie, why don't you go play in the bedroom for a few minutes? I need to talk to Marcus. Okay, Mummy. Zoe skipped off. Mr. Hoppy clutched under her arm. As soon as the bedroom door closed, Mark stood up and turned to face her. You can't stay here. Excuse me? This place isn't safe, Maya. The neighborhood, the building, that broken lock on the front door. I'm doing the best I can. I know you are, but you don't have to anymore. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling my assistant. I'll have her find you a place. Something better, somewhere safe. No, Maya's voice was firm. Maya? No, Marcus, you don't get to just swoop in and fix everything with your money. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? Because, from where I'm standing, my daughter is living in a place that should be condemned, and you're too proud to accept help. It's not about pride. Then what is it about? It's about not being your charity case. It's about not letting you fix all my problems because you feel guilty or obligated or whatever it is you're feeling right now. Her voice had risen, and she immediately regretted it. She glanced toward the bedroom, but Zoe was singing to herself, unaware of the argument happening in the next room. Mark took a breath, clearly trying to calm himself. This isn't about obligation. She's my daughter. Taking care of her isn't charity. It's responsibility. A responsibility you kept from me for 5 years. The words stung because they were true. Maya sank down onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let you in. Let you help. I've been on my own for so long. I don't know how to be anything else. Mark sat down beside her, careful to leave space between them. You're not on your own anymore. Whether you like it or not, we're connected now. We have a daughter together. We have to figure out how to make this work. Your mother won't let us. I told you I'll deal with my mother. You don't understand what she's capable of. Then help me understand. Before Maya could respond, there was a sharp knock at the door. 3 precise raps that made her blood run cold. She knew that knock. Mark stood up. Are you expecting someone? Maya didn't answer. She couldn't, because when she looked through the peephole, her worst nightmare was standing in the hallway. Eleanor Reed, Marcus's mother, impeccably dressed as always, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, her expression cold and calculating. Maya? Mark was watching her. Who is it? She turned to him, her face pale. It's your mother. His expression darkened. What? She's here, at my door. How did she... He stopped, realization dawning. She had me followed. Of course she did. Eleanor Reed didn't leave anything to chance. If her son suddenly disappeared after seeing a woman in a convenience store, she'd want to know why. Mark moved toward it, but Maya grabbed his arm. Wait, let me talk to her first. Are you joking? After what she did? Please, Marcus. If you confront her now, it'll make everything worse. Let me handle this. He looked like he wanted to argue, but something in her expression made him stop. Fine, but I'm not leaving. Just stay quiet. Please. Maya took a deep breath and opened the door. Eleanor Reed stood in the hallway like she owned it. Her designer heels somehow not touching the dirty floor, her Chanel suit looking absurdly out of place in the run-down building. Her eyes swept over Maya with barely concealed disdain. Hello, Maya. It's been a long time. Mrs. Reed. May I come in? Now's not a good time. I insist. Eleanor pushed past her without waiting for an answer, stepping into the apartment like she was entering a crime scene. Her nose wrinkled slightly at the sight of the worn furniture and peeling paint. Then her eyes landed on Marcus. I should have known you'd be here. Mother! Marcus's voice was ice cold. How nice of you to drop by unannounced. I was worried about you. You disappeared this morning without a word to anyone. Imagine my surprise when my driver told me you'd spent the morning at a coffee shop with a woman and a child. Your driver? You mean the private investigator you hired to follow me? Eleanor didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. I protect my family's interests. You should be grateful. Grateful? You tracked me like a criminal. And it's a good thing I did, because now I see exactly what's going on here. Eleanor's eyes moved to Maya. You couldn't stay away, could you? I paid you good money to disappear. Before we continue, can I ask you for a quick favor? If this story has you on the edge of your seat, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next because things are about to explode. And comment below Team Maya or Team Eleanor. Let me know. Mark stepped between them. You paid her to leave? Of course I did. She was a distraction, a poor girl from a poor family who would have dragged you down. I did what any mother would do. I protected my son. Protected me, you destroyed my life. Don't be dramatic, Marcus. You became CEO exactly as planned. You built an empire. Would you have done that with her hanging around your neck? Maya flinched at the words, but Mark looked like he might explode. That wasn't your decision to make. Someone had to make it. You were too blinded by infatuation to see clearly. It wasn't infatuation. I loved her. Loved? Eleanor's laugh was sharp and cruel. Past tense. Interesting. So you've moved on, just as I knew you would. So what exactly are you doing here, Marcus? Revisiting old memories. Having a midlife crisis at 32. I'm meeting my daughter. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Eleanor's face went completely still. What did you say? You heard me. I have a daughter. Her name is Zoe. She's 5 years old, and you're the reason I never knew about her. For the first time since Maya had met her, Eleanor Reed looked genuinely shocked. Her carefully constructed mask slipped, revealing something that might have been fear. That's impossible. Is it? You paid Maya to leave 6 years ago. You threatened her. You told her you'd ruin my career if she told me she was pregnant. Did you really think that wouldn't have consequences? Eleanor's eyes snapped to Maya. You were pregnant when I gave you that money? Maya lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated. 3 months. And you took the money anyway. My mother was dying. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, dear. You chose money over honesty. You chose control over your son's happiness, Maya shot back. So don't stand there and judge me. Eleanor's expression hardened. Where is this child? None of your business, Mark said immediately. If she's my granddaughter, it's very much my business. You lost the right to call her that when you paid Maya to disappear. I was protecting you. No, you were protecting yourself. Your image, your reputation, your control over me. Marcus's voice was shaking with fury. You took away 6 years I could have had with my daughter. 6 years of birthdays and first words and bedtime stories. You stole that from me, and you stole it from her. So no, Mother, you don't get to meet her. You don't get to be part of her life. Not after what you did. Eleanor's face went pale, then red. You're being irrational. I'm being a father. You're being a fool. This woman is clearly using the child to get money from you. Can't you see that? The only person who used money to manipulate anyone here is you. Their voices were rising, and Maya suddenly remembered Zoe in the next room. Stop! Both of you stop! They turned to look at her. Zoe is in the bedroom, Maya said quietly. She doesn't need to hear this. Mark took a visible breath, reining himself in. Eleanor smoothed down her suit, composing herself. Fine, Eleanor said. Then let's speak plainly. Marcus, you cannot seriously be considering a relationship with this woman. Look at where she lives. Look at how she's raised your alleged daughter. Is this really the life you want? Alleged? Marcus's voice was dangerous. Are you suggesting the child isn't mine? I'm suggesting that you should get a paternity test before you do anything rash. I don't need a paternity test. I saw her. She looks exactly like me. Children can resemble anyone. Don't be naive. I'm not naive. But you clearly think I am. Eleanor sighed like she was dealing with a stubborn toddler. Marcus, darling, I'm trying to protect you. Again, if this child is yours, fine. We'll set up a trust fund, arrange for proper childcare and education. Maybe find Miss Thompson a suitable apartment somewhere far from here. But you cannot throw away everything we've built over some misguided sense of obligation. She's my daughter, not an obligation. And what about Victoria? You're supposed to announce your engagement next month. The Ashford merger depends on it. Then the merger can fall through. I'm not marrying Victoria. Eleanor's eyes flashed with anger. You're letting one night of nostalgia ruin a billion-dollar deal? I'm choosing my daughter over your business plans. If you can't understand that, then we have nothing more to discuss. Marcus, get out, mother. Excuse me? You heard me. Get out. You're not welcome here. Eleanor looked between them, her expression caught between fury and disbelief. You're making a terrible mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you. Now leave. For a moment Maya thought Eleanor might refuse. But then the older woman straightened her shoulders, gathered what was left of her dignity, and walked toward the door. She paused in the doorway, looking back at Maya. This isn't over, she said quietly. Not by a long shot. Then she was gone, her heels clicking down the hallway until the sound faded away. Maya closed the door and leaned against it, her whole body shaking. Mark stood in the middle of the room, his hands clenched into fists, his chest heaving with barely controlled rage. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. I'm so sorry you had to find out like this. He turned to look at her, and she saw tears in his eyes. Did you mean it? When you said you left to protect me? Yes, and my mother really threatened to ruin my career. She said she'd make sure the board never approved you as CEO, that she'd tell everyone you were irresponsible, that you'd gotten some poor girl pregnant and abandoned her. She said she'd destroy your reputation before it even started. Mark sat down heavily on the couch, his head in his hands. I believed her. All these years, I believed she wanted what was best for me. Maya sat down beside him, keeping a careful distance. She does, in her own twisted way. She just can't separate what's best for you from what's best for her. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, it doesn't. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Mark looked up at her. I meant what I said. She's not meeting Zoe. Not until she apologizes, and means it. She won't apologize. Then she won't meet her granddaughter. Marcus, she's powerful. She has lawyers and money, and I have more of both. Trust me, Maya. I won't let her hurt you or Zoe. I promise. Before Maya could respond, the bedroom door opened, and Zoe peeked out. Mummy, is the angry lady gone? Maya's heart sank. You heard that, baby, she was yelling. I didn't like it. Mark immediately went to her, kneeling down to her level. I'm sorry, Zoe. That lady won't yell here anymore. I promise. Who was she? Mark glanced at Maya, who nodded slightly. She's my mom, your grandmother. Zoe's eyes went wide. I have a grandma? Yes, but she had to leave. Will she come back? Not unless she learns some manners. Zoe giggled, and just like that, the tension broke. Mark picked her up, and she wrapped her arms around his neck like it was the most natural thing in the world. Can you stay for lunch? Zoe asked. Mark looked at Maya over Zoe's shoulder. Can I? Maya knew she should say no. She should send him away and figure out how to process everything that had just happened. But Zoe looked so happy, and Mark looked so hopeful, and Maya was so tired of carrying everything alone. Yeah, she said softly. You can stay. And so he did. They ordered pizza because it was all Maya could afford to contribute, and Mark didn't argue. They sat on the worn couch, eating cheap pizza from paper plates, while Zoe told Mark about her favorite cartoon and her stuffed rabbit and the drawing she'd made in preschool. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to normal. But for a few hours, in that tiny run-down apartment, they almost felt like a family. And that terrified Maya more than anything Eleanor Reed could ever do. Mark stayed until Zoe fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from the excitement of the day. He carried her to the bedroom without being asked. Laying her gently on the bed, Maya pointed to. He stood there for a long moment, just watching her sleep, his hand hovering over her hair like he wanted to touch it, but was afraid he'd wake her. Maya watched from the doorway, her throat tight with emotion. This was what she'd stolen from him. These small moments, these quiet connections. When he finally stepped away, they went back to the living room and sat on opposite ends of the couch. The apartment was quiet, except for the sound of sirens somewhere in the distance, and a neighbor's television through the thin walls. "She's incredible," Mark said finally. "She is. She has your smile, and your stubbornness." He almost laughed. "Is she happy? Generally, I mean—" Maya considered the question carefully. "She doesn't know we're struggling. I've tried to keep that from her. But yeah, I think she's happy. She's a good kid. Because you're a good mother." The compliment surprised her. "I'm trying to be—" "You are." Mark turned to face her fully. "But you're drowning, Maya, and I can't just stand by and watch that happen. Not anymore. Marcus, hear me out. Please." He shifted closer, his expression serious. "I want to help, not because I pity you or because I'm trying to control you, but because Zoe is my daughter, and you're her mother, and I have the resources to make your lives better. We've been over this, I know, but I'm not talking about just throwing money at the problem. I'm talking about a real solution." He paused. "Move in with me." Maya stared at him. "What?" "Move into my house. Both of you. I have plenty of space. 5 bedrooms, a yard, a safe neighborhood. Zoe could have her own room, her own toys. You wouldn't have to worry about rent or food or utilities." "Are you insane?" "I'm practical. Marcus, we can't just move in with you. We barely know each other anymore. We have a daughter together. That's a pretty good reason to get to know each other again." Maya stood up, pacing the small space. "This is crazy. People will talk. Your mother will lose her mind. And what about Zoe? What do we tell her? We tell her the truth, that I'm her father and I want to be part of her life. She's 5 years old. So? Kids are resilient. She'll adjust. And what happens when you get tired of playing house? When you realize that being a father is harder than you thought? We just pack up and leave." Mark stood too, his voice firm. "I'm not going to get tired of her. She's my daughter, and I'm not going to abandon either of you." "You say that now. I mean it." He crossed to her, taking her shoulders gently. "Maya, I know you're scared. I know you have every reason not to trust me or my family. But I'm asking you to take a leap of faith here. Let me do this. Let me be a father. Let me help you both." She wanted to say no. Every instinct told her this was a bad idea. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw the same man she'd fallen in love with 6 years ago. Earnest, sincere, desperate to do the right thing. "I need time to think about it." "How much time?" "I don't know. A few days?" "Maya, look at this place. Look at that eviction notice on your fridge. You don't have a few days." She'd forgotten he'd seen that. The bright orange paper threatening to throw them out if she didn't come up with 3 months' rent in 72 hours. Money she absolutely did not have. "I'll figure something out." "How?" "Another convenience store." The words were harsh but not cruel, just honest, and the honesty hurt worse than anything. "That's not fair. Life's not fair. But I can make yours easier if you'll let me." Maya sank back down onto the couch, defeated. "What would your mother do if we moved in? She already hates me. This would just give her more ammunition." "I don't care what my mother thinks. Easy for you to say. You're not the one she's threatened. Mark sat beside her again. Did she really say she'd ruin my career? Word for word. She said the board would never approve you as CEO if they knew you'd gotten some poor college dropout pregnant and abandoned her. She said she'd make sure everyone knew what kind of man you were. But I didn't abandon you. I didn't even know. She was going to make it look like you did. She had a whole story planned out. How you'd paid me off to get an abortion, and I refused. How you told your friends I was crazy and obsessed. She was very thorough. Marcus's jaw clenched. And you believed she could do it? She's Eleanor Reed. She could do anything. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, What if I made it so she couldn't touch you? What do you mean? What if we made this official, legal, so she couldn't claim Zoe wasn't mine, or that you were trying to trap me, or any of the other lies she'll inevitably spread? Official how? Mark took a deep breath. Marry me. Maya's heart stopped. What? Marry me? Not for love or romance or any of the traditional reasons, but as a partnership, a way to protect Zoe and give her stability, a way to make sure my mother can't use lawyers or money or manipulation to keep me from my daughter. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. He turned to face her fully. Think about it. If we're married, we have equal parental rights. My mother can't claim you're an unfit mother trying to extort me. She can't try to take Zoe away. And you'd have access to everything you need. Healthcare, education, security. This is insane. It's practical. It's crazy. Is it? People get married for worse reasons. At least we'd be doing it for our daughter. Maya's mind was spinning. Marriage to Mark Reed. The man she'd loved and left. The man whose mother had paid her to disappear. The man who was sitting here proposing a business arrangement like it was the most logical thing in the world. I can't think about this right now, she said, pressing her hands to her temples. It's too much. Today has been too much. I understand. But Maya, that eviction notice says you have 72 hours. I need an answer before then. So what? I marry you, or I'm homeless. That's my choice. No. If you say no to the marriage, I'll still help you. I'll find you and Zoe an apartment, pay your bills, set up a custody arrangement. Whatever you need. But marriage would make everything simpler, cleaner, stronger. Marriages of convenience don't work, Marcus. People get hurt. So do single mothers stealing baby formula. The words landed like a slap. Maya's eyes filled with tears. That was low, but true. His voice softened. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you see clearly. You're in an impossible situation, and I'm offering you a way out, a way that protects Zoe and gives her the life she deserves. You become my partner, the mother of my child, a member of my family with all the rights and protections that come with it. And what about you? What do you get out of this? I get my daughter. I get to be a father. That's all I want. Maya looked at him, searching his face for any sign of deception or ulterior motive. But all she saw was sincerity, maybe a little desperation. But mostly, just a man who discovered he had a daughter and would do anything to be part of her life. I need to sleep on it, she said finally. Okay. And I need you to understand that if I say yes, it's only for Zoe. Not because I have feelings for you, or think we can pick up where we left off. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. But he nodded. Understood. And there would have to be rules, boundaries. This would be a business arrangement, nothing more. Whatever you want. I'm serious, Marcus. Separate bedrooms. No expectations of anything beyond co-parenting. No. Maya. He cut her off gently. I understand. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm just asking you to let me love my daughter." The simple honesty of it broke something in her. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Mark stood up. "I should go. Let you think. But I'll be back tomorrow morning. We can talk more then." "Okay." He walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I never stopped looking for you. Even after the investigators gave up. Even after everyone told me to move on. I kept hoping I'd find you someday." "Why?" "Because I never stopped loving you." Before she could respond, he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. Maya sat alone in her apartment, surrounded by the evidence of her failure. The worn furniture, the empty cabinets, the eviction notice on the fridge, the daughter sleeping in the next room who deserved so much more than this. And she thought about Marcus's proposal. Not the romantic kind she'd once dreamed about. Not the proposal where he got down on one knee and promised her forever. But a practical arrangement, a business deal, a marriage of convenience designed to protect their daughter. It wasn't what she wanted. But maybe, just maybe, it was what Zoe needed. And wasn't that what being a mother was all about? Putting your child first, even when it meant sacrificing your own dreams. Maya got up and walked to the bedroom. She stood in the doorway watching Zoe sleep, her blonde curls spread across the pillow, her face peaceful and innocent. Zoe had no idea that her whole world was about to change. That the father she'd never known existed was about to become a permanent part of her life. "I don't know what to do, baby girl," Maya whispered. "I just want what's best for you. Even if I'm not sure what that is anymore." Zoe shifted in her sleep, clutching her stuffed rabbit closer, and Maya made a decision. She pulled out her phone and typed out a text message to the number Mark had given her earlier. Her hands shook as she wrote the words that would change everything. "Okay, I'll marry you, but we do this my way. We tell Zoe together, and if your mother tries anything, the deal is off." She hit send before she could change her mind. 3 dots appeared immediately, like he'd been waiting by his phone. Then his response came through. "Deal. I'll have my lawyer draw up a prenup that protects you. And Maya, thank you. You're giving me the greatest gift I could ever ask for." Maya stared at the message for a long time. Then she turned off her phone and went to bed. Tomorrow, she'd wake up engaged to Mark Reed. In a few weeks, she'd be his wife. And somehow, she'd have to figure out how to navigate this new reality without losing herself completely. But tonight, she just let herself cry. For the girl she used to be. For the love she'd lost. For the future she'd once imagined that could never be. And in the morning, she'd put on a smile for Zoe and pretend that everything was going to be okay. Even if she had no idea if that was true. If you're still watching, I need you to comment right now. Do you think Maya made the right decision? Should she have said yes to Marcus's proposal? Or is this whole thing a disaster waiting to happen? Let me know what you think, because this story is about to take some wild turns, and I want to hear your theories. The next morning came too fast. Maya barely slept, her mind racing with everything that had happened. By 6 a.m., she gave up trying and made coffee with the last of the grounds in the cabinet. She sat at the small kitchen table staring at her phone, at the messages from Mark that would change her entire life. At 7:30, there was a knock at the door. Maya knew who it was before she even looked. Mark stood in the hallway with 2 large shopping bags and a tentative smile. "Good morning. You're early. I couldn't sleep. Can I come in?" She stepped aside, and he entered carrying the bags. "I brought breakfast. And some other things. Marcus, you don't have to—" "I know, But I wanted to... He set the bags on the counter. There's bagels, cream cheese, fruit, orange juice. And I got Zoe some books I thought she might like. Maya looked at the spread of food, more than she'd had in her kitchen in months, and felt tears threatening again. Thank you. Is she awake? Not yet. She usually sleeps until 8. Good. That gives us time to talk. Mark pulled out a chair at the table. About last night. About what you agreed to. Are you having second thoughts? No. Are you? About 100 of them. He smiled slightly. That's fair. Look, I know this isn't conventional. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I want you to know I'm committed to making this work. For Zoe's sake. Just for Zoe's sake. The question hung between them. Mark looked at her for a long moment. What do you want me to say, Maya? I want you to be honest. Honestly? Part of me hopes that spending time together, raising Zoe together, might give us a chance to find what we had before. But I'm not going to push that. I'm not going to make you uncomfortable. If you want this to be purely practical, I'll respect that. Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. I don't know what I want. 6 years ago, I wanted you more than anything. I wanted a life with you. A family with you. And then your mother took that away, and I had to rebuild everything from scratch. I can't just go back to being that girl who believed in fairy tales. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to give this a chance. To let me prove that I can be a good father and a good partner, however you define that. Before Maya could respond, they heard movement from the bedroom. A moment later, Zoe appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes, her hair a wild tangle of curls. Marcus! Her face lit up when she saw him. You came back. Of course I did. I brought breakfast. Zoe ran to the table, and Mark lifted her onto his lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maya watched them together, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. Zoe, sweetie, Maya said carefully. Mark and I need to talk to you about something important. Zoe looked between them, suddenly serious. Am I in trouble? No, baby. Not at all. It's good news. At least we hope you'll think it's good news. Mark set Zoe down gently but kept his hands on her shoulders. Zoe, do you remember when you asked me who the angry lady was yesterday? Your mommy. Right. My mother. Well, there's something else I need to tell you. Something really important. He took a breath. I'm not just your mommy's friend. I'm your daddy. Zoe's eyes went wide. My daddy? Yes. Like the daddies at school? Exactly like that. Zoe looked at Maya. Mommy, is it true? Maya nodded, her throat tight. It's true, baby. But you said I didn't have a daddy. I said your daddy wasn't around. And that was true. But now he is. Now he wants to be part of your life. Zoe turned back to Marcus, studying his face carefully. Are you going to leave again? The question clearly broke his heart. Never. I promise, Zoe. I'm not going anywhere. I want to be your daddy forever. Do I have to call you daddy? Only if you want to. You can call me Markeef, that's easier. Zoe considered this. Then she threw her arms around his neck. I always wanted a daddy. Mark closed his eyes, holding her tight. Over her head he looked at Maya, and she saw tears streaming down his face. This was real now. This was happening. They were about to become a family, however unconventional and complicated that family might be. And somehow, Maya had to find a way to make peace with that. They spent the morning like a normal family, if you ignored the fact that they'd only just met and were planning to get married for all the wrong reasons. Mark made Zoe laugh by pretending the bagel was a telephone. Maya watched them together and tried not to think about how natural it all felt, how dangerous that feeling was. Around 10, Marcus's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. "It's my mother. Don't answer it," Maya said immediately. "I have to. If I don't, she'll just show up here again." He was right. Maya nodded, and Mark stepped into the bedroom to take the call. Even through the closed door, they could hear his voice rising. "No, Mother, I'm not coming to the office today, because I have more important things to do, like getting to know my daughter." A pause. "I don't care about the Ashford meeting. Cancel it." Another pause, longer this time. "You're not listening. I'm not marrying Victoria. Not now, not ever. That deal is dead." Zoe looked up from her coloring book. "Why is Mark yelling?" "He's just having a grown-up conversation, sweetie." "With the angry lady?" "Yes. I don't like her." "I know, baby." Mark came back out a few minutes later, his face flushed with anger. "She's threatening to cut me off from the family business. Says if I don't marry Victoria, she'll have the board remove me as CEO. Maya's stomach dropped. Can she do that? She can try, but I own 40% of the company outright. She'd need a majority vote, and most of the board members are loyal to me, not her. He ran a hand through his hair. But it'll be ugly. She's going to fight this with everything she has. Maybe we should wait. Give her time to calm down. No. Waiting just gives her time to plan. We need to move forward. Fast. How fast? I'm thinking this weekend. Maya nearly choked on her coffee. This weekend. Marcus, that's 4 days away. I know. But the longer we wait, the more time she has to interfere. If we get married quickly and quietly, she can't stop it. People will talk. They'll say I trapped you, or I'm a gold digger, or... Let them talk. I don't care what people think. Easy for you to say. You're not the poor black woman marrying a billionaire, after conveniently showing up with his secret daughter. The bitterness in her voice made him pause. You're right. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking about how this looks from your perspective. It looks like every stereotype you can imagine. The struggling single mom who baby trapped the rich guy. Your mother's going to make sure everyone sees it that way. Mark sat down across from her. Then we control the narrative. We tell our story first on our terms. I'll have my PR team draft a statement. Something honest but private. We met years ago, fell in love, lost touch. Now we've reconnected and we're building a future together for our daughter's sake. That's not exactly honest. It's honest enough. The details are nobody's business but ours. Maya wanted to argue, but she was too tired, too overwhelmed. Everything was moving so fast she could barely keep up. Okay, she said finally. This weekend. But I want Zoe to understand what's happening. I don't want her confused or scared. Agreed. Mark looked over at Zoe, who was still coloring, oblivious to the conversation that was deciding her future. How do we explain marriage to a 5-year-old? Carefully. They waited until after lunch, when Zoe was full and happy and playing with the new books Mark had brought. Then Maya sat down beside her on the couch, with Mark on her other side. Zoe, sweetie, we need to talk to you about something else. Zoe looked up. More important news? Yes. You know how Mark is your daddy now? Uh-huh. Well, when a mommy and a daddy love their little girl very much, sometimes they decide to become a family. A real family, all living together in the same house. Zoe's eyes lit up. We're going to live with Marcus. Would you like that? Yes. Does he have a big house? Mark smiled. Pretty big, with a backyard and a swing set. A swing set? Zoe was practically bouncing now. Mommy, can we really? There's something else, Maya said. When a mommy and a daddy become a family, they usually get married. Do you know what that means? Like in the princess movies. Sort of. It means Mark and I would be husband and wife, and we'd all live together and take care of each other. Zoe looked between them. Are you going to kiss? Maya's face went hot. Well, married people kiss sometimes, Mark said smoothly, but only if they both want to. Do you want to kiss Mommy? Mark glanced at Maya, something complicated in his expression. Your mummy is very beautiful. But we're going to take things slow and make sure everyone is comfortable. It was the perfect diplomatic answer, but Zoe wasn't satisfied. But if you get married, you have to kiss. That's the rule. Who told you that? Maya asked. Real life is a little different than the movies, baby. But you'll try to live happily ever after, right? The innocent hope in her voice made Maya's heart ache. We'll try, sweetie. We'll do our best. Okay. Zoe seemed satisfied with that answer. When do we move to the big house? Mark and Maya exchanged glances. Soon, Mark said. Very soon. But first, we need to go shopping. Shopping for what? Well, your mummy needs a wedding dress, and you need a flower girl dress. Zoe gasped. I get to be a flower girl, the most important flower girl ever. Can I have a pink dress? You can have any color you want. Zoe launched herself at Marcus, hugging him tight. Over her head, Mark looked at Maya with an expression that said, We're really doing this. Maya nodded slightly. Yes, they were really doing this. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Mark made phone calls to his lawyer, his assistant, someone he called his event coordinator. Maya half listened, her mind still trying to catch up with reality. 4 days. In 4 days, she'd be married to Mark Reed. By evening, Mark had arranged for movers to come the next day. Pack what you want to keep, he told Maya. Everything else we'll replace. Marcus, I can't just throw away all my stuff. I'm not asking you to throw it away. Donate it, store it, whatever you want. But Maya, most of this furniture is falling apart. Let me get you new things, please. She looked around the apartment, seeing it through his eyes. The couch with the broken spring, the table with the wobbly leg, the dishes that didn't match. He was right, but it still hurt to admit it. Okay, she said quietly, but I want to keep some things. For Zoe, so she remembers where we came from, of course. That night, after Zoe had fallen asleep and Mark had finally left, Maya sat alone in her apartment for what might be the last time. In 24 hours, movers would come and pack up her entire life. In 4 days, she'd stand in front of witnesses and promise to spend her life with a man she barely knew anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. My lawyer sent over the prenup. It's very straightforward. You keep whatever assets you bring into the marriage, and I've set up a trust for Zoe that's untouchable regardless of what happens between us. There's also a clause that guarantees you a settlement if we divorce, so you're not left with nothing. Please, read it over and let me know if you have any concerns. Maya opened the attached document. It was 10 pages of legal language that basically said Mark would take care of her and Zoe, no matter what. There was no clause trying to take Zoe away if they split up. No demand that Maya give up her parental rights. It was, as he'd said, straightforward and fair. Maybe too fair, she texted back. This is very generous. It's what's right. Sign it if you're comfortable. If not, we can negotiate. No, it's fine. I'll sign. Thank you. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Maya put her phone down and looked around the apartment one more time. This place had been her prison and her sanctuary, the place where she'd struggled and survived. where she'd raised Zoe alone, terrified and determined in equal measure. And now she was leaving it behind. Part of her felt relief. No more worrying about rent or food or keeping the lights on. No more shame every time the eviction notices came. No more stealing from convenience stores because her daughter was hungry. But another part of her felt like she was betraying herself, like she was taking the easy way out, like she was proving everyone who'd ever doubted her right. "I'm doing this for Zoe," she whispered to the empty room. Just for Zoe, but deep down, she knew it wasn't entirely true, because a small, traitorous part of her heart was glad to see Mark again. Glad to have him back in her life, even under these strange circumstances. And that scared her more than anything. The next morning the movers arrived at 8 a.m. sharp. Maya watched as efficient men in uniforms packed up 6 years of her life in less than 3 hours. Mark showed up around 9 with Zoe's favorite donuts and watched the whole operation with quiet satisfaction. "Where are we going?" Zoe asked, clutching Mr. Hoppy. "To my house," Mark said. "Well, our house now. You're going to love it." They drove across Seattle in Marcus's Mercedes, leaving Rainier Valley behind. The neighborhoods got nicer, cleaner, safer. Trees appeared where there had been graffiti. Parks replaced vacant lots. Finally, Mark pulled into a gated community in Medina, right on Lake Washington. The houses here weren't just big, they were mansions. And when he stopped in front of a modern 3-story home with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, Maya's breath caught. "This is yours? Ours now." He wasn't trying to show off. He was just stating a fact. But Maya felt the weight of it anyway. The distance between where they'd come from and where they were now. Was supposed to be fake, a marriage of This was supposed to be fake, a marriage of convenience, a business arrangement. But it was starting to feel dangerously real. And Maya didn't know if that terrified her or gave her hope. By evening the guests had left, and it was just the 3 of them. Zoe was exhausted, practically falling asleep in her plate of cake. Mark carried her upstairs to bed while Maya cleaned up some of the reception mess, grateful for something to do with her hands. When Mark came back down, he found her in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher. "You don't have to do that. The caterers will handle cleanup tomorrow. I needed something to keep me busy." He came closer, leaning against the counter. "It's been quite a day. That's an understatement. Are you okay? After everything with my mother?" "I've survived worse. That shouldn't be the standard." Maya closed the dishwasher and turned to face him. They were standing close, closer than necessary. She could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his blue eyes. "Marcus, what you said out there, about meaning the vows. Did you really?" "Every word." He reached up, tucking a loose curl behind her ear. "I know this isn't a normal marriage. I know we're still figuring everything out. But Maya, I need you to understand something. When I lost you 6 years ago, it broke me. Finding you again, finding out about Zoe, it's like getting a second chance I never thought I'd have. I'm not going to waste it." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want this to be real. Not just for Zoe. For us. I want to build something with you. Something that matters." Maya's heart was hammering. "I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can trust." "Then don't. Not yet. But give me a chance to earn it. Please." She looked at him. This man who'd been a stranger 4 days ago and was now her husband. This man who'd stood up to his mother for her. Who'd given Zoe everything she'd ever dreamed of. Who was looking at her right now like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Okay," she whispered. "One chance." He smiled. Real and genuine. Then he leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, he kissed her. Soft and sweet and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Maya rested her forehead against his. This is crazy. Yeah, but sometimes crazy is good. I'm scared. Me too. But we'll figure it out. Together, and standing there in his kitchen on their wedding night, Maya let herself believe him. Let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, they could turn this arrangement into something real. Something that could actually last. Outside, the sun set over Lake Washington, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. And inside, two people who'd lost each other once before began the slow, terrifying process of falling in love all over again. This time, with their daughter sleeping peacefully upstairs, they were determined not to let anything tear them apart. Not his mother, not the past, not their own fears. They were a family now, and they were going to fight like hell to stay that way. The first 2 weeks of marriage were surprisingly normal. Mark went to work each day, while Maya took Zoe to enroll her in a new preschool in their neighborhood. A good school with art classes and a playground, and teachers who actually seemed to care. Zoe made friends immediately, coming home each day chattering about someone named Emma, who shared her crayons, or a boy named Tyler, who could do a handstand. Maya spent her days settling into the house, learning where everything was, trying to feel like she belonged in a place that cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. Marcus's housekeeper, a kind woman named Rosa, helped her navigate the high-end appliances and showed her where Mark kept his coffee and how he liked his morning routine. At night, they had dinner together like a real family. Mark would ask Zoe about her day, and she'd tell him every detail with enthusiastic hand gestures. Then they'd watch a movie or read books before bed. Maya would tuck Zoe in, and Mark would come say goodnight, and their daughter would fall asleep happy and secure. It was almost perfect. Almost. The only tension came from the fact that Maya and Mark were still sleeping in separate rooms. They'd kiss goodnight at the top of the stairs, and it always lingered a little too long, promised a little too much. But then Maya would retreat to her room, and Mark to his, and they'd lie awake in their separate beds, wondering what the other was thinking. They were married, but they weren't really together, and neither of them knew how to bridge that gap. On the 15th day, everything changed. Maya was in the kitchen making lunch when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello? Is this Maya Reed?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. Maya still wasn't used to her new name. "Yes. This is Jennifer Moss from Seattle Family Services. I'm calling regarding a complaint we received about the welfare of a minor child in your home." Maya's blood went cold. "What? What are you talking about?" "We received an anonymous report alleging that a child named Zoe Reed is living in an unsafe environment. The report claims the child was recently removed from a previous home due to neglect and is now being kept in a situation where her biological mother has a history of theft and unstable behavior." "That's not true. Who filed this report?" "I'm not at liberty to say. But we're required to investigate all claims. I need to schedule a home visit within the next 72 hours. "A home visit? You want to come inspect our house?" "Standard procedure, Mrs. Reed. I'm sure it's nothing, but we do need to verify the child's safety. Are you available tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Maya's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. "Yes, tomorrow at 10. "Excellent. I'll see you then." The line went dead. Maya stood in the kitchen, her whole body trembling, tears streaming down her face. She knew exactly who had made that call. Eleanor Reed. This was her revenge, her way of taking Zoe away when she couldn't control Marcus. Maya grabbed her phone and called Mark immediately. "Hey, is everything?" "Your mother called Family Services. They're investigating us for child neglect." Silence. Then, what? "Someone filed an anonymous report saying Zoe is in danger. They're coming to inspect the house tomorrow. Marcus, they could take her away from me." No, they're not taking our daughter anywhere. I'm coming home right now. Don't talk to anyone until I get there." He hung up. Maya sank into a chair, her mind racing. What if they found something wrong? What if Eleanor had planted evidence somehow? What if they decided Maya's past made her an unfit mother? She'd survived poverty and abandonment and shame. But she wouldn't survive losing Zoe. 20 minutes later, Mark burst through the door. He found Maya still sitting in the kitchen, staring at nothing. "Tell me everything," he said. She repeated the conversation word for word. Marcus's expression grew darker with each sentence. "It was my mother. It has to be—" Of course it was. Who else would know about the shoplifting? About our old apartment? "She's trying to scare us, but it won't work. This house is perfect. You're a perfect mother. Zoe is happy and healthy. They won't find anything wrong. What if they do? What if they decide my history makes me unfit? What if they say I only married you for money and stability, and that makes me a bad parent?" Mark knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "Listen to me. You are not a bad parent. You're the best mother Zoe could possibly have. You kept her alive and safe and loved when you had nothing. You sacrificed everything for her. No social worker is going to look at you and see anything except a woman who loves her daughter. You don't know that. I do. And I'm going to call my lawyer right now. We're going to be prepared for this visit. We're going to document everything. And if they try to take Zoe, they'll have to go through an army of lawyers first." He pulled out his phone and started making calls. Maya sat there, listening to him bark orders, demanding the best family law attorney in Seattle, telling his assistant to compile records of Zoe's medical care, school enrollment, everything that proved she was thriving. By the time he hung up, Maya felt marginally better. At least they had a plan. "The attorney will be here in an hour," Mark said. "Her name is Patricia Chen. She's the best. She'll walk us through exactly what to expect tomorrow." "Okay. And Maya, we're going to get through this. Together." She wanted to believe him. But the fear was a living thing in her chest, squeezing tighter with every breath. Patricia Chen arrived exactly 1 hour later. She was a small Asian woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She sat in the living room and listened to their story without interrupting. When they finished, she nodded. "This is clearly retaliatory. The timing alone proves it. You got married 2 weeks ago against Eleanor Reed's wishes, and suddenly there's an anonymous complaint. A judge would see through that immediately." "So they can't take Zoe?" Maya asked desperately. "Not without evidence of actual harm. And from what you've told me, there is no evidence. Your daughter is healthy, happy, enrolled in school, living in a safe home with 2 parents who love her. The worst they might do is require follow-up visits to ensure continued stability. What should we do tomorrow? Be honest. Be cooperative. Show them Zoe's room, her toys, her books. Let them see how happy she is. Don't be defensive or hostile. Just be yourselves. What about my past? The shoplifting, the eviction notice, all of it?" Patricia didn't sugarcoat it. "They'll likely ask about it. Be honest. Explain the circumstances. You were a desperate mother trying to feed your child. That's not neglect. That's survival. And since then, your situation has improved dramatically. You're in a stable marriage with financial security. That's exactly what Family Services wants to see." Maya nodded, trying to absorb everything. "One more thing," Patricia said. "If Eleanor Reed is behind this, and I believe she is, she won't stop here. She'll keep trying to find ways to undermine you. You need to be prepared for a long fight." "I don't want to fight," Maya said quietly. "I just want to raise my daughter in peace. Unfortunately, Eleanor Reed isn't going to give you that option. So you have two choices. You can let her intimidate you and control your lives, or you can stand up to her and fight back. Mark spoke up. We fight back. Whatever it takes." Patricia smiled slightly. "Good, because I've dealt with Eleanor Reed before. She's used to getting her way through money and threats. But she's not used to people who refuse to back down. If you're willing to fight, we can win this." "We're willing," Maya said, finding her voice. "I won't let her take my daughter." "Our daughter," Mark corrected gently, "and neither will I—" Patricia left them with a thick folder of instructions and legal documents. Maya spent the rest of the day cleaning an already spotless house and second-guessing every parenting decision she'd ever made. Mark worked from home, making calls and sending emails, building their defense. That night, after Zoe was asleep, Maya stood in the hallway outside Marcus's bedroom. They'd been sleeping separately since the wedding, maintaining that boundary. But tonight, she didn't want to be alone with her fears. She knocked softly. "Come in." Mark was sitting on his bed, still dressed, going through documents. He looked up when she entered, and his expression softened. "Can't sleep. I keep thinking about tomorrow. What if they talk to Zoe? What if she says something that sounds wrong out of context? Kids say things, Marcus. What if—" "Hey." He stood up and crossed to her. "Zoe is the happiest I've ever seen her. She tells everyone about her new school and her new room, and her daddy who takes her to the park. There's nothing she could say that would make them think she's in danger. I'm terrified. I know. Come here." He pulled her into his arms, and Maya let herself lean into him. They stood like that for a long moment, his chin resting on her head, her face pressed against his chest. "I meant what I said at the wedding," Mark murmured, "for better or worse. This is definitely worse, but we're in it together." Maya pulled back slightly to look at him. "Why are you doing this? Really? You could have just set up a custody arrangement and gone back to your lives. Why are you fighting so hard? Because you're my wife. Zoe is my daughter. This is my life now. And I wouldn't change it for anything. Even though your mother might destroy your company? Even though. Maya, I've been thinking a lot about what matters. 6 years ago, I let my mother convince me that my career was the most important thing, that everything else could wait, and I lost you because of it. I'm not making that mistake again." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that if I have to choose between the company and my family, I choose my family, every single time." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want you to have to choose. Then we make sure I don't have to. We fight smart. We protect Zoe. We show my mother that we're not going to be bullied or manipulated, and we build something she can't tear down." "A real marriage?" "Yeah, a real marriage. If you want that." Maya looked at him, this man who'd stood up to his mother for her, who'd given her and Zoe everything, who was looking at her right now like she was the answer to every question he'd ever had. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of what? Of wanting this too much, of believing in it and having it fall apart, of losing you again." Mark cupped her face gently. "You're not going to lose me. I promise. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever my mother tries, whatever obstacles we face, I'm not going anywhere. How can you be so sure? Because I never stopped loving you, Maya. Not in 6 years. Not for one single day. And now that I have you back, I'm never letting go. The words hung between them, honest and terrifying. Maya's heart was racing. She could pull away right now, could retreat to her safe separate bedroom and keep that wall between them. Or she could take the leap. She chose the leap. She kissed him. Not the careful, performative kisses they'd shared at the wedding, but a real kiss. Deep and desperate, and full of 6 years of longing and regret and hope. Mark responded immediately, his arms tightening around her, pulling her closer. They stumbled backward toward the bed, still kissing, and Maya let herself get lost in the feeling of being wanted, being loved, being home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Mark rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered. "Not because of tomorrow or because you're scared, but because you want to." "I want to," Maya said. "I'm tired of sleeping alone. I'm tired of pretending this isn't real. I want my husband." Something blazed in his eyes. "You have him. You've always had him." They made love that night, gentle and slow, relearning each other after 6 years apart. And when Maya fell asleep in Marcus's arms, she felt safer than she had in years. Tomorrow they'd face the social worker. Tomorrow they'd deal with Eleanor's schemes. Tomorrow they'd keep fighting for their family. But tonight they were just Mark and Maya, two people who'd found their way back to each other against all odds. And that was enough. The next morning, Jennifer Moss from Family Services arrived at exactly 10% a.m. She was younger than Maya expected, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. "Of course," Mark said smoothly, "we want to cooperate fully." Jennifer pulled out a tablet. "I've reviewed the complaint that was filed. It alleges several concerns. I need to ask you both some questions, and then I'd like to speak with Zoe briefly, if that's all right." Maya's hands clenched in her lap, but she nodded. "Whatever you need. Mrs. Reed, the report mentions that you were recently living in substandard housing in Rainier Valley. Can you tell me about that?" Maya took a breath. "Yes. I was struggling financially. I had a low-paying job and couldn't afford better housing. But I always made sure Zoe had food and clothes and everything she needed. We were poor, but she was never neglected. And the report mentions an incident involving theft." Maya's face flushed with shame, but she met Jennifer's eyes. "Yes. I was caught trying to take groceries from a convenience store. My daughter hadn't eaten in over a day, and I was desperate. It was the worst moment of my life. But Marcus, my husband, he paid for the items. No charges were filed." "And how did you two meet?" Mark spoke up. "We knew each other in college. We were in a relationship 6 years ago. When Maya became pregnant, circumstances separated us. I only recently discovered I had a daughter." Jennifer made notes. "And you married very quickly after reconnecting?" "Yes," Mark said. "Because I wanted to be part of my daughter's life immediately. And because I love Maya. I always have. The complaint suggests this might be a marriage of convenience, that Mrs. Reed might have used the child to secure financial stability." Maya felt anger rising. "I didn't even tell Mark about Zoe. He found out by accident. If I was trying to trap him, don't you think I would have contacted him years ago?" "That's a fair point," Jennifer acknowledged. She looked around the house. "May I see Zoe's room?" They led her upstairs. Zoe was at school, so the room was empty, but clearly lived in. Books scattered on the bed. Drawings taped to the walls. Toys everywhere. Jennifer smiled. "This is lovely. She's clearly comfortable here." They showed her the rest of the house, answered more questions about Zoe's routine, her school, her medical care. Jennifer was thorough but not hostile. Maya started to relax slightly. "Finally," Jennifer said, "I'd like to speak with Zoe when she gets home from school. Just a brief conversation." "Of course," Mark said. They waited nervously for Zoe to arrive. Rosa picked her up at noon and brought her home. Zoe came running in, excited to see her parents home in the middle of the day. "Mommy! Daddy! Guess what we did at school today?" "Tell us later, sweetie," Maya said gently. "This is Miss Moss. She wants to talk to you for a few minutes." Zoe looked at Jennifer with curiosity but no fear. "Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm 5 3/4. Jennifer smiled warmly. "It's very nice to meet you, Zoe. I just want to ask you a few questions about your house and your family. Is that okay?" "Okay." They sat in the living room while Jennifer talked to Zoe. Maya and Mark waited in the kitchen, straining to hear but trying to give them privacy. "Do you like living here, Zoe?" "I love it. I have my own room and so many toys, and Daddy takes me to the park, and Mummy reads me stories every night." "Your daddy?" "Tell me about him. He's the best. He makes funny voices when we read books, and he knows all about science stuff. And he gives really good hugs." "What about your Mummy?" "Mommy is the most beautiful and the smartest, and she always makes sure I have everything I need. Sometimes she cries at night, but she thinks I don't hear. But I think she's happier now." Maya's throat tightened. She hadn't realized Zoe knew about her crying. Jennifer asked a few more questions about meals, bedtime routines, whether Zoe ever felt scared or unsafe. Zoe answered everything with cheerful honesty, painting a picture of a happy, secure child. Finally, Jennifer thanked her and sent her off to play. She came into the kitchen where Maya and Mark are waiting. "Well?" Mark asked. Jennifer closed her tablet. "Your daughter is clearly thriving. She's well fed, well cared for, and genuinely happy. The concerns raised in the complaint appear to be unfounded." Maya felt like she could breathe for the first time in 24 hours. "So you're closing the case? I'll submit my report recommending closure." "Yes. However, I do want to note that whoever filed this complaint had access to detailed information about your past, Mrs. Reed. That suggests someone close to the situation." "We know who it was," Mark said grimly. Jennifer looked between them. "If you believe you're being harassed or targeted, you should document everything. Keep records. Because if another complaint comes in, having a pattern of false reports will actually work in your favor." "Thank you," Maya said, "for being fair, for actually looking at our family instead of just assuming the worst." "That's my job," Jennifer said with a small smile. "You have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful home. I hope you'll be very happy together." After she left, Maya collapsed onto the couch, relief washing over her. "We did it. She's not taking Zoe." Mark sat beside her, pulling her close. "I told you. Our family is solid. My mother can't break that. She's going to keep trying. Let her. We're stronger than she thinks." That evening, after Zoe was in bed, Mark got a phone call. He looked at the screen and frowned. "It's my lawyer, the one handling the board meeting my mother called." He answered, and Maya watched his expression change as he listened. When he hung up, he looked grim. "What is it?" "The board meeting is scheduled for next week. My mother is officially moving forward with her attempt to remove me as CEO." "What? But you own 40%. She can't—" She can if she convinces enough other shareholders that I'm unstable. And she's been working them, Maya. Spreading rumors, questioning my judgment, using the family services complaint as evidence that I'm in crisis. This is my fault. If you hadn't married me— Don't, he cut her off firmly. This is not your fault. This is my mother being vindictive and controlling, and honestly, maybe it's time. Maybe I need to choose once and for all between the company and my family. You don't have to choose. We can fight this. How? Maya thought for a moment. Then an idea started forming. A risky, potentially devastating idea. But maybe the only way to end this once and for all. What if we told the truth, the whole truth, about what your mother did 6 years ago, about the money, the threats, everything? Mark stared at her. That would destroy her reputation. She's trying to destroy ours, and she's using Zoe as a weapon. Marcus, I'm done being nice. I'm done letting her control our lives because we're afraid of what she might do. It's time to fight back. If we expose her, she'll never forgive us. We'll be cutting her out of our lives permanently. Good. We don't need her toxicity anywhere near our daughter. Mark was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, we go nuclear. We tell the board everything. We show them exactly what kind of person she really is. And we let the chips fall where they may. Are you sure? No. But I'm tired of being scared of her. And you're right. We need to protect Zoe. If that means burning bridges with my mother, so be it. They spent the next week preparing. Patricia Chen helped them compile evidence. The bank records showing the payment Eleanor had made to Maya. Emails and text messages Mark had saved from 6 years ago, showing his mother's manipulation. Testimonies from friends who'd witnessed Eleanor's controlling behavior. It was damning. It was also terrifying. The night before the board meeting, Maya couldn't sleep. She got up and found Mark in his office, going over his presentation one more time. Hey, she said softly. You should get some rest. I can't. I keep thinking about what happens tomorrow. If this goes wrong, Maya, I could lose everything. The company, my reputation, my relationship with my mother, all of it. But you'll still have us. He looked at her. Is that enough? It should be. Isn't that what you said? That family matters more than business? It does. But it's still scary to potentially throw away everything I've built. Maya came around the desk and sat on his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. Then don't throw it away. Win. Show them that you're the right person to lead that company, that you're strong enough to stand up to your mother and smart enough to see her manipulation for what it is. Show them the man I fell in love with. Mark kissed her softly. When did you fall back in love with me? Was it before or after I proposed a fake marriage? She laughed. Probably somewhere around the time you stood in my terrible apartment and offered to pay for everything without making me feel like garbage about it. Or maybe when you knelt down and talked to Zoe about her stuffed rabbit like it was the most important conversation in the world. I don't know. It just happened. I fell back in love with you the second I saw you in that convenience store, scared and proud and beautiful. I knew right then I'd never stopped. They kissed again, deeper this time. And Maya sent up a silent prayer that tomorrow would go well, that they'd come through this stronger, that Eleanor Reed would finally lose. The next morning, Mark put on his best suit, and Maya wore a conservative dress that screamed respectability. They drove to Reed Technologies headquarters in downtown Seattle, and Maya's stomach churned with nerves. The boardroom was on the top floor, all glass and steel and intimidation. 12 board members sat around a massive table. Eleanor was already there, looking immaculate and confident. Patricia Chen was there too, as Marcus's legal counsel. She gave them a small nod of encouragement. The board chairman, an older man named Robert Sterling, called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss concerns raised by Eleanor Reed regarding Mark Reed's fitness to continue as CEO. Eleanor, you have the floor. Eleanor stood gracefully. Thank you, Robert. I've called this meeting because I'm genuinely concerned about my son's recent behavior and judgment. 2 weeks ago, he abruptly married a woman none of us knew existed. A woman with a troubled financial history and a child she claims is his. He cancelled major business deals without consultation. He's been distracted, erratic, and making decisions based on emotion rather than logic. I believe he's in crisis, and I'm asking this board to consider a temporary leave of absence until he can demonstrate stability. She sat down, and several board members nodded thoughtfully. Robert looked at Marcus. Marcus, you have the right to respond. Mark stood, and Maya could see his hands shaking slightly. But his voice was steady. Thank you. Yes, I got married recently. Yes, I have a daughter I only just met, and yes, I've made some changes to my priorities. But I'm not in crisis. I'm finally seeing clearly for the first time in 6 years. He clicked a button, and a presentation appeared on the screen behind him. 6 years ago, I was in love with Maya Thompson. We were planning a future together. Then she disappeared without explanation. I was devastated. I threw myself into work, did everything my mother asked, built this company into what it is today. But I was miserable, and I didn't know why Maya had left, until recently. He clicked again. Bank records appeared on screen. This is a wire transfer from my mother to Maya's account 6 years ago. $50,000. Paid on the same day Maya left me. My mother gave her this money and told her to disappear. She threatened to destroy my career if Maya told me she was pregnant with my child. Gasps around the table. Eleanor's face went pale. That's a lie, Eleanor said sharply. She's clearly manipulating you. These are bank records, Mother. Documentation. Facts. Mark clicked again. These are text messages between you and me from that time period. You told me Maya was trash, that she'd trapped me, that I needed to focus on my future with the company. You manipulated me into believing she'd left because she didn't love me, when the truth was you paid her to go. The board members were whispering now, looking at Eleanor with suspicion. Robert cleared his throat. Eleanor, is this true? I was protecting my son. You took away my daughter. You stole 6 years I could have had with her. Marcus's voice rose. You controlled every aspect of my life, and when I finally found happiness, you tried to destroy it. You filed a false report with Family Services trying to get my daughter taken away. You're trying to remove me as CEO because I won't let you control me anymore. He took a breath, steadying himself. So yes, my priorities have changed. I have a family now, a wife and daughter who need me. But that doesn't make me unfit to lead this company. If anything, it makes me stronger. Because now I have something worth building for. Something more important than just profits and market share. He looked around the table. I've increased this company's value by 300% in 6 years. I've landed major contracts, expanded into new markets, built partnerships that will sustain us for decades. My personal life doesn't change my business acumen. But my mother's manipulation and vindictiveness should absolutely disqualify her from having any say in how this company is run. He sat down. The room was silent. Finally, Robert spoke. We'll need time to review this information and deliberate. Marcus, Eleanor, please wait outside. Mark and Eleanor left the boardroom. They stood in the hallway, not looking at each other. Patricia and Maya waited with Marcus, while Eleanor stood alone on the other side. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes, Robert opened the door. "We've reached a decision. Please come back in." They filed back into the boardroom. Maya held Marcus's hand tightly. Robert stood. "After reviewing the evidence presented, this board has voted to retain Mark Reed as CEO. Furthermore, we're removing Eleanor Reed from the board of directors effective immediately. The evidence of manipulation and interference in Marcus's personal life is unacceptable. We cannot have board members who prioritize personal vendettas over company interests." Eleanor shot to her feet. "You can't do this. I founded this company with my late husband. And you've been amply compensated for your shares. But your position on this board is terminated. Security will escort you out." 2 security guards appeared at the door. Eleanor looked around wildly, searching for allies, but found none. Her eyes landed on Marcus, and for a moment Maya saw genuine hurt there. Betrayal, as if she couldn't understand how her son could choose against her. "You'll regret this," Eleanor said quietly. "Both of you." "No, Mother. I regret listening to you for so long. I regret letting you control my life. But I don't regret fighting back." Eleanor turned and walked out, her head held high, flanked by security guards. And just like that, it was over. The board members congratulated Marcus, assuring him of their continued support. Patricia was smiling. Maya felt like she could finally breathe. "We did it," Maya said. "You did it." "No, we did it together." Mark pulled her close. "I couldn't have done any of that without you." "So what now?" "Now we go home to our daughter. We have dinner as a family. We start building the life we should have had 6 years ago. Just like that? Just like that?" They drove home, and when they walked through the door, Zoe came running. "Daddy! Mommy! You're home!" Mark scooped her up, spinning her around. "We are, baby girl. And we're not going anywhere." That night, after Zoe was asleep, Mark and Maya sat on the couch together, exhausted but relieved. "Your mother is really gone," Maya said. "From the company, from our lives. All of it. Yeah. I thought I'd feel guilty, but I just feel free. What if she tries something else? Then we'll handle it. Together. That's what families do." Maya leaned her head on his shoulder. "I can't believe this is my life now. 2 weeks ago I was stealing groceries and facing eviction. Now I'm married to a billionaire CEO and living in a mansion." "It's not about the money or the house, Maya. It's about us. About building something real. I know. And I want that. I want all of it. The good, the bad, the complicated. I want to be your wife. Really be your wife." Mark turned to look at her. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying I love you. I never stopped. And I'm done being scared." He kissed her then, deep and passionate and full of promise. And when they finally pulled apart, they were both smiling. "So we're really doing this?" Mark asked. "Real marriage? Real life? All of it?" "All of it. For better or worse, remember." "I remember. And Maya? It's going to be so much better than worse." 3 months later, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Zoe was thriving in school, making friends and learning to read. Mark was successfully running the company without his mother's interference. And Maya had enrolled in online classes, working toward the degree she'd had to abandon years ago. They were happy. Really, genuinely happy. One Saturday morning, Maya woke up feeling nauseous. She brushed it off as something she ate, but when it happened again the next day, and the day after that, a suspicion started forming. She took a pregnancy test while Mark was at the park with Zoe. Positive. Maya stared at the test, tears streaming down her face. This time was different. This time she wasn't alone and terrified. This time she had a husband who loved her, a daughter who was happy, and a future that felt secure. When Mark and Zoe came home, Maya was waiting in the kitchen with the test hidden in her pocket. "Mummy?" Zoe ran to hug her. "We saw ducks at the park." "That's wonderful, baby. Hey, can you go play in your room for a few minutes? I need to talk to Daddy." "Okay." Zoe skipped off, and Mark looked at Maya with concern. "Everything okay?" Maya pulled out the pregnancy test and set it on the counter. Mark stared at it, his eyes going wide. "Is that? We're having a baby. A real planned baby that we both know about from the beginning." A huge smile spread across his face. "We're having a baby?" He crossed the kitchen in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "We're having a baby." "Maya, that's incredible." "You're happy? Are you kidding? I'm ecstatic. Zoe's going to be a big sister," they told Zoe that evening, and she was thrilled at the idea of a baby brother or sister. They called Patricia and a few close friends. They celebrated with ice cream and movies and plans for the future. And that night, lying in bed together, Marcus's hand on Maya's still flat stomach, Maya finally felt like everything had come full circle. 6 years ago, she'd been pregnant and alone and terrified. Now she was pregnant and loved and safe. 6 years ago, she'd been paid to disappear. Now she had a home and a family that would never let her go. 6 years ago, she'd lost everything. Now she had everything that mattered. "Thank you," Mark whispered in the dark. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance. For letting me be Zoe's father. For building this life with me. For everything." "You gave me a second chance too," Maya said. "You saved us." "No. We saved each other." And as Maya drifted off to sleep, she thought about how far they'd come. From a convenience store confrontation to a real marriage. From secrets and lies to honesty and trust. From 2 broken people to a family whole and complete. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been perfect. But it had been worth it. Every single moment had been worth it.